The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove podcast. We're talking NFL quarterback depth, who has the best, and some rookie quarterbacks to watch as well. We're talking new contracts. We're talking NBA Finals, Major League Baseball with some surprising things going on throughout the season. And NASCAR silly season is upon us. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove podcast.
From Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network, you're listening to the Sports Stove Podcast with your host, Vince Stover.
Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up with me?
Welcome into an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Podcast presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Join the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code STOVE15. That's STOVE15. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. I'm your host, Vince Stover, joined as I am every week by my dad, Dale Stover. We're a day early, but not a dollar short. How you doing, Dad?
Doing good. We're well into the summer here now, and a lot of sports going on. Some wrapping up, a lot are continuing, and got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do. And we're going to kick things off today with the NFL, and we'll probably be talking more about the NFL as the summer progresses. But I wanted to get into some quarterback stuff because I saw a thing earlier this week, one of those classic, you're looking, you're going, wait, he's on what team? Going through some different things. So it got me to thinking about quarterback depth. One of the biggest things that we've seen hinder teams in the last couple of years is not having a solid backup quarterback. And so when the starter goes down, things don't turn out well, i.e. the Jets last year when Rodgers went down. The Bengals, I think, would fall into that category, although probably did better than most people thought they would do. So anyways, that's what we're going to look at today is quarterback depths and which teams we think have the best depth when it comes to quarterbacks in the NFL. And I basically went too deep on this. There's a couple of teams that have a third string quarterback that you go, well, as a backup, not a bad thing as well. But nonetheless, I wanted to look at these teams. And Dad, I'm curious if you saw a team that you said, you know what, I did at least. I think there's a team that is clear cut the best set at quarterback coming into the year. Did you have a team like that?
Yes, looking at them, to me it looked like the Bills.
Yeah. Yep, I'm with you on that one as well. Of course, Josh Allen is the starter. Mitch Trubisky is back as the backup. And listen, we like to make fun of Mitch Trubisky because of his time with Chicago. But the reality is Trubisky, he didn't deserve to be drafted as high as he was. That wasn't his fault, of course. That being said, he is, I think, one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the league right now. And so that means I think he's able to start. So to have him as a second string quarterback, is he as good as Josh Allen? No, of course he's not. But that being said, he is a guy that can come in and still win games, still get you to the playoffs. If Allen goes down, if Allen has to miss 2 or 3 games, Trubisky's going to be able to step in, I think, and play really good football. Is that kind of your mindset with the Bills as well?
Yes. Yeah. Trubisky, has been a starter. He has the experience. And I think as far as when you look at backups, I think he's probably better than the others. Definitely is definitely an option if Allen got hurt, for a game or two or even a few more, not for the whole season. No, but for a couple games, I think, Trubisky would have the experience and, to me looked like the best of the bunch there.
Yeah, and Dad, I think a team that's not too far behind them is the Cleveland Browns. They've got 2 quarterbacks with a lot of starting experience. Deshaun Watson is the number 1 guy. Of course, Jameis Winston comes in the offseason as the number 2. And I have been a pro Jameis Winston guy pretty much from the get-go. And I think he's been shortchanged to some degree. He's been immature as well. And I don't erase that. But the reason why I had them second behind, I think Jameis Winston's better than Mitch Trubisky. But I don't think Deshaun Watson is better than Josh Allen at this point. And so I put them behind the Bills. But I think that duo of Watson and Winston puts the Browns in a really, really good spot coming into this year.
Yes, it does. I had them pretty high too. I had them as a number 3 guy, but they're number 3 team. But and I think Winston is much better as a backup than he is as a starter. So I think he could come in for a couple games. But again, I think I don't know that he's proved yet to be a team's number 1 quarterback all the time. But I think that's a great combination for Cleveland to have.
I don't think there's a better backup quarterback in the NFL right now than Jameis Winston. I think you've got guys like Andy Dalton. You've got Mitch Trubisky that we've already talked about. But to me, and you got the rookies. That's the other thing you got to think about too. Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix. Where are they? Well, we don't know. We haven't seen them play in the NFL yet. I will die on this hill. I think Jameis Winston's the best backup quarterback currently in the NFL. And that's why I've got them as high as I do. Well, if they were your third team, Dad, who was your second team?
Well, as I looked at this, you have several quarterbacks who were starters for a year or so, and it hasn't worked out, but you think they have potential, and that's where I fell on this one. And to me, it was the Eagles. I like Pickett being behind, quarterback there, and so I had them number 2, and then Winston number 3, but that was real close.
Yeah, I like that duo as well. They're number 4 on my list, but to have Jalen Hurts, and again, I like Jalen Hurts. I think he's a very good quarterback, a top level quarterback in the NFL. I like Pickett as the backup too. I think now he's in a situation that makes better sense for him. Again, it's not his fault that Pittsburgh took him in the first round, but Kenny Pickett sitting behind Jalen Hurts, I think is a really good thing for him and has potential to really help his career because there's a chance Hurts gets hurt and then Pickett gets to play. And if he shows out well, that's going to produce interest from some other teams. And, I think I like that too. I had these next group of people, three teams kind of grouped together, Dad, that were my 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Philadelphia was 4th, but I got Jacksonville above them. I like Mac Jones slightly more than Kenny Pickett due to the fact that he has, I think, I don't know. I trust him more for some reason or another. Now, I don't know that I'm 100% trust Trevor Lawrence still to this point. But I like that duo. I like having a guy with experience as the backup, but not going to push the number 1 guy in the sense Trevor Lawrence isn't going to be looking over his shoulder at Mac Jones. But I like what Jacksonville did by bringing Mac Jones in. And so I put them there. And the other team that I have in that grouping is Atlanta with Kirk Cousins as the 1. The rookie behind him and Michael Penix Jr., and even the 3rd string guy, Taylor Heineke, with a ton of experience too. I thought Atlanta's this team that is really intriguing, and I have a hard time with rookie quarterbacks, but I really like the depth that Atlanta has. So I have Jacksonville, Philadelphia, and Atlanta all kind of grouped up together in this one. How do you feel about those teams?
Yeah, well, Mac Jones, I've just got a little more question about, but that has a lot of potential. I do have them on my list here, but that's kind of, I can see where you're at on that. The Falcons, that should be a good combination. Again, Penix is untested, so I didn't have them quite that high, but I did have them. They're on my list there too. So no doubt about it. The team I had 4th, and it's because I think the backup quarterback is good. I'm not sure how good a combination it is, but that was with the Jets with Tyrod Taylor. I think he's a backup where if the Jets need to give Rodgers a break, Or, now again, if he was to have to be the quarterback for the year, he would be better than what they had last year. But to me, that they made a solid backup pick there in getting him. So I like them. And then, I'm not sure how it's going to end up, but I like the Steelers.
Yeah.
From there, Fields behind. I still believe Russell Wilson can quarterback, and I think again you got Fields behind him. We've talked about this before, and I think that may get to be a strife situation. It may not be good, but as far as talent is concerned, having two quarterbacks, I think the Steelers are in pretty good shape there. And then I had the Falcons, coming in after that.
Yeah, I had Pittsburgh on my list too as the sixth team. The combination of Wilson and Fields should be a positive thing for Pittsburgh. The question is the coaching. Can they get it together for either of these guys? I like Fields better than Wilson at this point in their careers. But that being said, Wilson has Super Bowl experience, and I don't think you can count that out either. So yeah, I like Pittsburgh too. The Jets, I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree with you. I'd have them a little down at this point. Rodgers is definitely better than these other quarterbacks that we haven't really mentioned yet for the most part. And Tyrod Taylor, I'm not as big on him as other people are. I like him as a backup. I don't know that I love him as a backup. I'm not the kind of team that thinks, man, if Rodgers goes down, we're perfectly fine. Tyrod Taylor's getting us to the playoffs. That I don't see it that way. But that being said, if Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, and Rodgers go down, well, Tyrod Taylor is probably the second best quarterback in the division at that point. So there is positives to that, Dad. I don't love a whole lot of the other situations. I'm intrigued a little bit. You've got guys with experience, and at Indianapolis, you got Anthony Richardson, the young quarterback, Joe Flacco backing him up. I'm not a Flacco guy. I was back in the heyday, but I'm not now. So I'm not sure how that goes. Even in Tennessee, Will Levis getting the start. They've got a guy with experience in Mason Rudolph behind him. I don't love that. Kansas City has Carson Wentz backing up Mahomes. That's intriguing, but when's the last time he played good football? So I'm not sure how much you can buy into that. In the NFC East, Dad, the Giants, they're going to start Daniel Jones, we think, but I've heard a lot of people say that Drew Lock has a chance to beat out Daniel Jones this year, and maybe we see Drew Lock unlocked throughout this season, and all of a sudden he shows up. If Drew Lock's the starter, I love Daniel Jones as a backup, but I don't know that I love Daniel Jones as a starter. Washington's got Mariota backing up the rookie, so again, some experience there as well. Minnesota has a rookie backup quarterback, and to Sam Darnold. Again, I don't love that situation. And I mentioned Andy Dalton earlier, Dad. Carolina, Bryce Young, with Andy Dalton backing him up. That has potential to be a good duo. I love Andy Dalton as a backup quarterback with his experience and his play. And if the coaching staff comes in and can turn Bryce Young's career back around, then all of a sudden Carolina could look like a pretty solid situation at quarterback. But Dad, the NFC West, I would hate to be a general manager or a coach there. The backup quarterbacks are Desmond Ridder in Atlanta, Stetson Bennett in Los Angeles, Josh Dobbs in San Francisco, and Sam Howell in Seattle. Those teams are in trouble if they lose their starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I looked at those and I was thinking, well, I wonder about the Rams, and then I looked and thought, no, that wouldn't work. So we'll see. I did have the Colts on my list, like you said. Not a big Flacco guy necessarily now either, but I think he's a really good backup for Richardson there. Again, Richardson went out for the year, and then that they were in trouble. But as far as I think he's a good, solid guy to have there from there. And I'm a little intrigued about the Lions just because, we're Tennessee fans. And I think Hooker, it'll be real interesting to see how he develops and comes along. But he could end up being a good backup, for the Lions there. So kind of interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker. Now they signed Goff to the long-term contract extension, and he's going to be their quarterback. But Hooker last year kind of had a redshirt year, got a chance to sit and learn the offense. And I'm really intrigued to see him in the preseason to see what he looks like with a whole year of the offense under his belt. Now he gets to go out and play. I'm intrigued by that. The other team, Dad, that is intriguing to me, and I know it's hard for you to say anything positive about, but it's the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott is the starter. Right now, Cooper Rush is still listed as the second string, with Trey Lance as the third string. I've always been curious to see if Trey Lance could ever just get a legit opportunity to play. He's not going to get that with Dak Prescott around, but Prescott's had injury issues. I'm curious to see if Trey Lance can beat out Cooper Rush. And if he did, I would be more optimistic about that duo, Prescott and Lance, than I am about Prescott and Rush as it currently sits. Any thoughts on that situation behind Dak Prescott in Dallas?
Again, I mean, it doesn't look real solid to me, and I think Dallas is going to be an interesting team. I think that they got a tough situation this year with as far as the owner and the support for the coach, and we'll see how that goes. Prescott. I've tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I just don't know, where they're going to end up being with him. Trey Lance just, he had some opportunities. He didn't show anything. Maybe, as high a draft pick as he was, he should be. But sometimes that doesn't work out. A guy you mentioned as a backup a little bit ago, Marcus Mariota. I mean, he's not a starting quarterback, hasn't been at this stage. So I don't know what Trey Lance, will be either. Cooper Rush filled in well last year, but again, he's not going to be a guy that's going to carry him where they want to go. And they're a team where when you have those kind of expectations, probably really makes it tough on a backup.
All right, let's play the game. Would you rather Dak Prescott or because I know you're a Dak hater. I think Dak has been a lot better than you give him credit for. Would you rather have Dak Prescott or Will Levis as your starting quarterback?
Oh, Dak Prescott.
Okay, good.
No doubt about it. He's got more experience. So
okay. Would you rather have Dak Prescott or Sam Darnold as your quarterback?
Dak Prescott, no doubt about it. I'm not an Arnold guy at all. So
okay. Dak Prescott or Geno Smith?
I would think Dak Prescott, even though Geno Smith's had his moments. So,
oh goodness, has he though? No. That's an easy one too. Let's see. Are there any other ones? Now everything else is pretty well. I would still take Dak Prescott over Tua Tagovailoa. I'm not a Tua guy at all. I don't believe in this guy. I don't think he's the answer. I think he's got the right weapons around him, and that's made him look really good. But I assume you would take Tua. Would you take Dak or Tua?
I would take Tua on that. I really would. So,
all right. Well, anyways, 3 rookie quarterbacks are currently slotted to start the season as the number ones. That's Caleb Williams in Chicago, Jaden Daniels in Washington, and Bo Nix in Denver. Is Caleb Williams the obvious answer for the best rookie quarterback this year?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think Daniels has the best chance to succeed this year.
Why is that? Why is that?
I just think I think where he's at, again, he's got some people around him. The expectations are not going to be as high. I think the coaching might be better there. And, again, the expectations, the pressure is going to be so high on Chicago and the quarterback there. I mean, Caleb Williams, everybody's expecting so much. So if they don't get it, maybe they're going to say, okay, we'll have another year, but that's not what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is, they've got it turned around right now. And, again, I mean, yeah, I'm a little prejudiced, but I don't believe that at all. And so I think Williams has a lot of pressure. You've told me all year that there could be issues with him, just as far as, being a diva, getting along with everybody and everything with there. I don't know that he's the leader that is going to have to tie everything together. There's some talent in Chicago, more talent than they've had in a while. But I don't know that he is the leader or has the leadership ability at this point to be the guy that will rally everybody around him, and be able to take them where they need to go, at least not right away. So we'll see how that goes. Daniels, I just think, is in a little bit better position. Bo Nix, I think Denver's a ways away.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid he's going to fall into a bad situation. I'm not sure if he would probably be a guy better served to sit and learn for a year, but they didn't put him in that situation. So
yeah, I don't know what he's going to learn from Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Now I think the Bears, without looking at their schedule, I think the Bears are an 8-win team this year. I think Williams has a good statistical year. I think the Bears did right by Caleb Williams in a lot of ways with the weapons that he has, both at running back, tight end, and wide receiver. I think he's set up to be the best quarterback this year. Jaden Daniels, well, first of all, I think what you said about expectations is important. The expectations in Chicago are crazy high, and that's just hard to match up and meet up to. The thing I like about Jaden Daniels in Washington, he does have some weapons that can be helpful for sure, but he also has the athleticism, the running ability that is better than Caleb Williams. So statistically, Jaden Daniels has that potential to put up a few more rushing touchdowns. And if he can hit his receivers, he's got guys. Terry McLaurin is underrated. I mean, he is a very good wide receiver. And so he does have weapons, but I don't think Washington is very good either. And so I think Caleb Williams is still the best for this season. But I think we're going to see some flashes from Jaden Daniels. If he stays healthy, some flashes from Jaden Daniels that will be impressive as well. 3 quarterbacks that are currently listed as number 2, rookie quarterbacks, that is. Drake May in New England behind Jacoby Brissett. J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota behind Sam Darnold. And Michael Penix Jr. In Atlanta behind Kirk Cousins. Which of those 3 guys do you think will play and have, out of those 3, the best year of those 3 quarterbacks?
Okay, it was McCarthy and who was the other 2?
Drake May and Michael Penix.
I don't know. I think McCarthy's going to have the quickest opportunity because I think there's going to be a short leash there. But I don't know that he is really ready to play. I'm real interested to see how Drake May does. Yeah. I think he has potential. So I think, that might be a good situation there. He might have the best opportunity.
I think so. Penix, I mean, the chances of Penix playing are the lowest out of these 3 guys, just being behind Kirk Cousins. Now, if he's not fully healthy, or if he gets hurt again, or if he ends up being really bad coming off of the injury, then maybe, but it's least likely. Sam Darnold has some weapons, a really good tight end. He's got a really good wide receiver, maybe the best in the league. He's got some running backs as well. I think Sam Darnold can hang on for a while. It's New England for me. I don't think Jacoby Brissett is going to be, people expect him to be, a 500 quarterback. I don't think he's that. And I think Drake May, he's just going to be too good to sit on the bench. And I'm not a massive Drake May fan, but I just think he's better than Jacoby Brissett. So I think Drake May is the guy who you'll see on the field first, unless there's an injury somewhere else. I think you'll see Drake May first, and I think he'll have the best season out of those 3 guys as backups. And the surprise rookie dad that I think sees some snaps this year is Spencer Rattler in New Orleans. He is currently the 3rd-string quarterback behind Jake Haener and Derek Carr. I just think there is a legit chance that Carr doesn't do great again this year. And Spencer Rattler, has more upside than Jake Haener. And so I think we might even see some Spencer Rattler at some point this season as well. Hopefully, Dad, we do not see Michael Pratt, the 7th round draft pick for the Green Bay Packers, at all this season. But it's going to be a fun year with the rookie quarterbacks and really with quarterbacks in general.
Yes, yeah, it will be just to see how that goes. It's going to be an interesting year, as we get into football here. A lot of players have changed around. A lot of teams have made moves to try to help themselves. And, the NFL's had parity anyhow, but I think it's going to be pretty wide open at the start here. And the quarterback thing, like I said, it's supposed to be a great class last year. We'll see, or this year coming out, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and we'll talk a lot more football and teams, depth and things like that as we move along. Dad, 2 big contract extensions this week. Justin Jefferson in Minnesota, Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco. I love both of these players. They're both so good. I think of them, fantasy-wise, of course. And Justin Jefferson has been so good to me. Christian McCaffrey has been phenomenal, even before he came to San Francisco, but especially since coming to San Francisco. He's been healthier, and he does everything. He catches, he runs, he's dynamic. And so both of these are big players. To get them locked up and secured for both of these teams is a big, big deal. Your thoughts on Justin Jefferson and Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah, no, it was very smart on both teams to get those tied up. No doubt about it. Jefferson, is probably the number 1 receiver, in the league. You got him and Jamar Chase right there, but that was big for Minnesota, no doubt about it. And there was a lot of money involved there. Of course, a lot of money in the NFL these days, anyhow. But I don't know how that resets the market necessarily, because I think Jefferson is just so far above most all the other receivers, with the exception of maybe 2. So the next guy up for contract, I don't think he's legitimately going to be able to say, well, I should get more than Justin Jefferson. Now we'll see, unless somebody has just a tremendous year or whatever there. McCaffrey makes all kinds of sense. He's a tremendous football player. He showed that when he switched teams here, and, they definitely want to keep him. No doubt about it. I guess he's getting a little more age on him, and, being a running back, takes a lot of wear and tear. So I think he's going to slow up somewhat. But again, with the weapon he is can be used in so many ways. I think, he's got several years to be very productive still.
You're a co-owner of the Green Bay Packers. Can you give us any insight on when Jordan Love gets his deal done?
I'm sorry?
When does Jordan Love get his deal done?
Well, today it came out that Goody said that, everybody wants to get it done before training camp. So I think it'll definitely be done before training camp starts. I don't know if it'll be done this next week before they're done with mini camp. I think it could be, because I think that way things won't be hanging over the break there. So I think there's a chance by next weekend something could be announced before they leave mini camp. If not, then definitely I think it'll be done before training camp starts. The day training camp starts is the same day the shareholders meeting is. So that's a great time for that announcement, no doubt about it. But I think it'd be better served for everybody to get it done before they go on the break before training camp. But nobody knows how close it is. Is it still the money? Is it still technicalities? Where are they at? I think they both agreed, they want to do it. I think the Packers, definitely want to sign him. I think he wants to sign. Obviously, you've got the agent and everything involved there. So, everything I hear, which I hear, a lot about it on the Packers side, is, the sticking point, if there is one, is guaranteed money. Just working out how much guaranteed money there's going to be. I don't think the total number of what he makes is probably going to be in question too much. But We'll see. So I would, it'd be great, I think, if they got it done by the end of next week, by the end of mini camp. But if not, it looks like it definitely will be done before. I don't think they'll go into training camp, with that being a question, especially the way things have gone so far in the off season.
All righty. Your Boston Celtics, Dad, are in the NBA Finals. Once again, they start on Thursday against the Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic. Give me what the series goes. How many games does it take the Celtics to beat the Mavericks?
I think the Celtics can win it in 6, maybe quicker. I will say I've watched just a little bit, and I watched a little bit of Dallas, and Doncic's quite the player. Yeah. So, but again, the Celtics really, I think, have the talent and have the experience here. And as long as they don't, lose something at home early, then I think they should get it done in 6. Wouldn't need to go 7. But again, I'll have to admit I'm a little worried because Dallas has played well, and Doncic's a great player. But the Celtics have experience, and they've got some really good players that can come up in the clutch. So I think they'll be ready to play.
Yeah, I think the key player for Dallas is actually Kyrie Irving. I think Luka's going to be Luka. You know what he's going to be. Kyrie comes in with championship experience and a phenomenal skill set. And so you've got those two guys to deal with in Dallas. Boston, the biggest question has always been, will they come through in the biggest moment? Jason Tatum's a phenomenal basketball player. Jaylen Brown's a really good basketball player, and they have great pieces around them as well. Boston should win this series, but Boston has this tendency to come up short in big-time moments. So it'll be an interesting series. I'd love for it to go 7 games just for the interest factor of it all. I don't know. I think we could get 7 games, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas wins in 6. I wouldn't be surprised if Boston wins in 6. But it should be a fun series, needless to say as well. All right, let's transition to baseball, Dad. And man, we just got to talk about this NL Central. Milwaukee, 7 games up right now on the Cubs. And how about that? The Cardinals. The Cardinals are back in the picture in the NL Central after a horrendous start to the season. They're still under 500, Dad, but here they are climbing their way up the ladder to the NL Central. And I'm intrigued by it, Dad, because the Reds started off with all these expectations. We talked about this with the Chicago Bears, all these expectations for the Reds coming into the season. And I tried to warn people. No one listens to me when it comes to the Reds. Listen, they got great talent on their team, but it is not working out for them right now. And they are at 27-33, 9 games back. I'm more concerned about the Cardinals than I am any other team in the Central as a Brewers fan.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, the Brewers have played really well, and so I mean, I think there's a good chance they can hold on. The Cardinals, though, are a team. All off season, you said they can't be as bad as they were last year, and they've got talent. They do have some experience. I heard you talk about that on your baseball show this week, and that's true. They've got some veterans that know how to play. Plus, they've got some young guys. So again, if they can get on a little bit of a streak, and if Milwaukee, hits a little bit of a cold slump, then all of a sudden it can get close. Milwaukee's been playing well. Are they good enough to stay that way all season? I don't know. Looked like the Cubs were going to challenge, but they've had trouble. And of course, it's because of the curse. And if people don't know what that means, they just need to listen to your baseball show on Sunday night and understand the council curse. But I think, and like I said, the Pirates are kind of gotten to where you thought they would be there. So the Cardinals are the team that could make it interesting. And we'll see. We're getting not too far from the All-Star break, and then we'll kind of see where everything goes from there and see if it even tightens up before the All-Star break.
Yeah, there are 17 teams below 500. That has to be some sort of record. I mean, You talk about, can the Brewers hold on? Well, there's just not a lot of good teams in Major League Baseball right now. I mean, in the AL West, there's only one team over 500. In the American League East, there's three teams, barely three teams above 500. The AL Central, though, Dad, has four teams at 500 or better. The Guardians leading the way with the Royals, the Twins, and the Tigers all there as well. To me, this is the most surprising division this season has been the AL Central. Cleveland has looked so good. Kansas City just will not go away either.
Yeah, I think that's where the surprise comes is with Kansas City. And Cleveland has been really, really good. Cleveland may, challenge one of the top teams. So if they do that, then that will be a little bit of a surprise. But I think Kansas City being as good as they are, and again, Minnesota, that doesn't surprise me as much. And, there was some expectations for the Tigers. Even though I don't think they're going to be in the hunt, it doesn't look like. I think the Royals has just been the surprise, and I don't know that they're going to go away. But Cleveland is, just playing really well, and have got a lot of good players, pitching, everything all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, in the American League right now, you've got the Yankees, the Guardians, and the Mariners leading the divisions. Your wild card teams would be Baltimore, Kansas City, and Minnesota right now, leaving teams like Tampa Bay, who's been consistently there. Texas, though, went to the World Series. Houston has been in the World Series recently as well. I mean, you got these teams that have been good that just have not been good this year, and it continues to blow my mind to watch some of these teams struggle. Especially in the National League West, the Arizona Diamondbacks went to the World Series last year. Young team, looked like they improved their pitching staff, and yet here they sit 4 games below 500 and out of the hunt right now in the playoffs as well. You're a Giants fan, so you pay a little attention to what's going on out west. How surprised are you with the Diamondbacks being so bad this year?
I mean, I didn't necessarily think they would be bad. I didn't think they were going to push the Dodgers like some people thought from there. I think maybe they're young, so they may have overachieved a little bit. They do have more talent than the way they're playing, no doubt about that. I don't know that they'll make a run at it. We will see. The Giants, they're struggling. They looked better for a while. Then they had 2 tough series. They split with Philadelphia. I was encouraged about that, but then they got swept by the Yankees. But a lot of people are getting beat by the Yankees. So, yes. And we're playing Arizona this week. Lost last night. So, we'll see how that goes there. I don't think San Diego is going to challenge anybody, even though they're a little bit ahead of us right now. So the Dodgers seem to be the team there, but I don't know that they're a dominant team in Major League Baseball at this point right now either. So the Phillies are really, really good, no doubt about it. And, of course, you've got teams in the American League that are really good.
How many legitimate World Series contenders are there in your mind right now, starting in the National League? I asked Kevin this, and he put the Braves in this list, and I don't see how you see the Braves as contenders right now. So I've got the Phillies and the Dodgers in the National League as legit World Series contenders. Do you think there's any other teams that should be there?
No, not right now. I agree with you on that. I think those are the 2 teams. Now, again, we've learned you get to the playoffs, somebody can get hot and can go through. But as far as legitimate teams looking like they're ones to really, challenge for the World Series, I think the Phillies and the Dodgers are definitely the 2 right now.
And then in the American League, I said Yankees, Baltimore, and Cleveland. Would you add anybody or take anybody off that list?
No, I think I would have to agree with that. I don't know where Kansas City is going to end up, but I don't know if they're quite in that category yet because of the younger players they have. So I think Cleveland, definitely Baltimore and the Yankees are the 2 main teams. Cleveland playing really well. So I think it's fair to say that at this time too. So I think, and like you said, that's kind of amazing when you look at baseball. And that's the number of good teams that you have, and you have all the teams under 500. And, we won't take time tonight, but we can talk about that sometime because, to me, there's not parity in baseball, and there's not going to be as long as some teams can get all the players they want and other teams can't. I know not everybody agrees with that, but I mean, you get this point of the season and you got 17 teams under 500. It's not a level playing field somewhere. So
yeah, but you got teams like Kansas City and Milwaukee that are above 500. Like I don't know. That's a get off my lawn argument that we'll discuss another day for sure. Dad, we're going to wrap up this conversation and shift into NASCAR. Anything you want to close out with before we transition to NASCAR?
No, like I said, there's a lot of sports going on. I enjoy college sports, so I've enjoyed girls softball is down to 2 teams now, and the baseball guys have started up and they're in the super regionals. There's been some really fun baseball to watch at college, some really good players there, and I think that's going to be fun over the next week or two as they get to Omaha from there. And I think there's one more championship, the NHL, something like that. I know you always forget about them, but they do start on Saturday. And I think this will be a great Cup finals with Edmonton and Florida. So, people that love hockey, and again, if you don't love hockey, when you watch the finals, the NHL, you can get excited about that, no doubt about it.
Yeah, playoff hockey, Stanley Cup, it's an entertaining game. For sure. And then I think in softball data, it's Oklahoma and Texas that's left, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Oklahoma qualified today. So it's Oklahoma and Texas again. Some very interesting things leading up to that, but they're number 1 and number 2. So
yeah, 2 SEC schools coming in. And I got a friend whose daughter plays at Kentucky, and I can say they are incredibly pumped to have those 2 powerhouses joining the conference next year as well. All right, Dad, thanks for jumping on a day early today and for the conversation. We'll be back next week to talk more of this stuff. We are going to transition, though, now to some NASCAR talk. First, a quick word from our sponsors, Righteous Felon Jerky.
Say hello to America's most wanted craft beef jerky. Over 15 flavors with all kinds of character. The #1 jerky gift box and all natural black Angus quality made right here in the US of A. Taste the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code STOVE15 at checkout. That's righteousfelon.com. Promo code STOVE15 at checkout.
NASCAR silly season is here. Let's talk about it on the Sports Stove Final Lap. And joining me once again to talk some NASCAR is the Belly Up Sports NASCAR head, Chris Prince. Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. I feel like we could spend an hour talking NASCAR tonight. I'm not going to do that, but that being said, things have gotten crazy over the last couple of weeks. And let's start back, because it's not something that I've talked about on this show really yet, to the Kyle Larson stuff back with the Indy 500 and the rain pushing that race back. And he didn't make it down to Charlotte until the rain showed up in Charlotte. And then he didn't get on the track in Charlotte. And everyone knew he was going to get the waiver. That's not a surprise. It's not a shock. And I don't think it's a bad thing either. But Larson gets his waiver today and is back to where he needs to be as far as the playoffs and things like that go. That whole weekend, what did you think about that whole weekend?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I enjoyed the spectacle of it. I don't really recall a lot of Tony Stewart's because that was more my childhood, but I vaguely remember when Kurt Busch did it. So it was kind of cool to kind of look at the spectacle and see it. I appreciate it more now as a racing fan than I did back then. So that was kind of cool, but I definitely was a little disappointed that we didn't get to see him do both, because he was. And then when he incurred the speeding penalty in the Indy 500. I just thought it was a big heartbreaker for sure.
Yeah, I was not watching the 500, but I was kind of keeping track of what was going on, and on Twitter, seeing the speeding penalty and knowing that that was kind of it for him there. And then I was intrigued by the spectacle of him flying into Charlotte, and then they watch the helicopter land, and then they watch him get on the golf cart, and he's putting on his Hans device and getting everything ready to go. And I'm just sitting there going, my goodness, they've got to get this race going again. Because Kyle Larson, what they've done here to get Kyle Larson on the track. Again, I think it's all positive for the sport. So I've been surprised by some of the people who have said he shouldn't get the waiver and all this kind of stuff. I'm thinking him running the Indy 500 brought more publicity to NASCAR than anything else could have on that weekend. And so I thought, for NASCAR, they would see it as a good thing for the sport. And I mean, let's be honest, Rick Hendrick's not going to get punished. So he knew it was going to go on the whole way.
Yeah, that man's invested way too much money into the sport, I feel like, for you to punish him at this point. He's a huge investor into NASCAR. So, the waiver and everything of it, I mean, I don't see how you could not give it to him, just based off of the prior stuff. And I know they came out and said today that was the whole reason it took so long for them to even approve it in the first place, was because the different circumstances. But yeah, I'm with you. I like the spotlight, like you said, it kind of put on NASCAR, because yes, the Coke 600 gets a little bit, but it's more for NASCAR fans on that weekend. Everybody knows about the Indy 500 though. And if you see Kyle Larson in the Indy 500 and you hear them talk about it, you're going to be like, hey, where's he racing again? What'd you say?
Right. It's like the Kentucky Derby, the Indy 500 is. I don't watch a second of Indy racing all year, but I'll pay attention to the Indianapolis 500 at the very least. The Derby, and I live in horse country. I live in Lexington, Kentucky, but I don't watch horse racing, but I do watch the Kentucky Derby. So and if a horse wins the Derby that has a chance to go on and run for the Triple Crown, I'm at least going to pay attention to what goes on there. So same thing with Larson. There will be people who tune into the 500 because that's what you do, and see Larson or hear Larson's story, and then kind of go, well, let's see how he does next week in his next race, and those kinds of things too. And we'll talk about the race from this weekend in just a moment. But Stewart Haas announces they're going to sell everything and move on their business elsewhere. And it just puts 4 drivers. Really, I think Preece is the one that no one really cares about. But it puts the other 3 drivers, specifically Briscoe and even Gregson. And I think if Josh Berry had a different crew chief, I don't think we would be talking about him quite as much. But to have Childress, or not Childress, but to have his crew chief that's just, he's constantly saying that I believe in this guy. It continues to give Josh Berry a little bit of life too. So what do you think is going to happen for Briscoe, for Gregson, for all the drivers, I suppose?
Yeah, like you said earlier, I feel like you could talk an hour alone about those guys. I saw a lot of stuff, speculation. I saw a Briscoe link to the Wood brothers because Burton's out at the end of the year. They're not going to re-up his contract. And then I saw things with I've even seen with the 2 other drivers going to front row, one taking Michael McDowell's seat and then filling the other seat that they just acquired. So, I mean, I could see that, but I've also heard something as crazy as Cole Custer and Riley Herbst grabbing those seats as well, because something to do with Herbst's family, helping purchase charters. All kinds of things. I don't know what, honestly, right now is speculation and what is, somewhat true anymore. But I think Berry is definitely an interesting one because of his crew chief. Yeah, I like Josh Berry, and I think he's got potential. It's just going to be the right situation. You've got to get him and his crew chief is what you want in that, I think.
Yeah, and Berry, he's got the right guys behind him. I mean, Junior loves Josh Berry, and he's got the crew chief. And that, granted, they doesn't have to go with the crew chief unless the crew chief says, I'm only going if you bring Josh with me, that kind of a thing. But I'm intrigued. If you had to put a bet out there on how many of the 4 Stewart-Haas drivers, how many of them are racing Cup full-time next year, what would your number be?
I'm going to say at the very least 2 for sure, but 3 would not surprise me. I don't see Ryan Preece getting a Cup Series seat. I mean, he could probably land in an Xfinity car or, a truck at the very least, but I don't see him back in the Cup Series next year just based off his performance.
He's been, 5 years, I think? Preece has been at the Cup level?
Collectively, yeah, I think you're roughly right there with 5.
Yeah. So he is what he is at this point, and he doesn't have the family name to hold on as some guys in the Cup Series do. And I think Gragson has just been so impressive this year. I would be absolutely shocked if he doesn't get a ride. And I think Barry's the odd man. He's the one that you have to wonder about, in my opinion, because Briscoe's going to get on somewhere. And I've seen a few different teams come up with Gragson's name as well. So I think Josh Berry's the question mark. So if you put the number at 2.5 over or under, that makes you question, okay, do I go over that or do I go under that? I think 3. I think Berry gets a ride ultimately as well. And so, yeah, I think 3 is probably the number there. We had a race this weekend that threw a wrench in some people's plans for the playoffs, with Austin Cindric showing up all of a sudden in St. Louis. But Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney had the cars to beat, and Austin Cindric was able to roll across the line first.
Yeah, that's racing for you. Any given Sunday, anybody can roll in the victory lane. It doesn't matter. I thought it was definitely a surprise, and I think, like you said, a wrench in a lot of people's plans that may have thought about pointing their way into the playoffs later on this year. So, yeah, but, yeah, change of events for sure, because I just talked about how disappointing Cindric had been his 3rd season.
Right.
So, yeah, I was definitely not expecting that. And then don't even get me started again on my Denny Hamlin bracket challenge. That's all.
Oh, yeah. I had 2 great picks in that. I'd have to go back and look at it now. I had 2 picks that were underdogs that are going to move forward. And then I think I had 2 picks that were favorites that I missed out on as well. One of the ones that I missed was Josh Berry versus Kyle Busch. And I picked Josh Berry, and I think Kyle Busch is going to have a rough race. Josh Berry's going to sneak through the first round. And they finished last and second to last. Kyle Busch got the win. Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, well, that stinks.
Austin Dillon and I think it was Bubba Wallace were the 2 there in that one. I had Bubba because I was like, I think Bubba can at least grab a top 10, and then Austin comes out with pit strategy and grabs 6th or 7th, I think it was, and Bubba didn't finish so great. So
yep. Yeah, it was fun. But you look at this current setup right now, where we're sitting at with points and all that kind of stuff, to have Daniel Suarez and now Austin Cindric in, my goodness, I think people are going to start sweating a whole lot more right now, because you got guys, even like Ryan Blaney, who's currently pointed in, but he's been close, but he's had one of those weird seasons where it's just like nothing seems to be going his way. And then to watch Austin Cindric go past him and win on a day that it looked like it was his to have. Yeah. I think Blaney's starting to sweat a little bit right now, along with everybody else.
Yeah, I think you have to look at Blaney and even like the Bowmans, Martin Truex, guys like that you expect to see in the playoffs, even just with where they are and, what kind of equipment they drive. Yeah, definitely starting to sweat a little bit, because you throw in 1 or 2 more of those wrenches in the plan, and pointing your way in is not as easy as it was.
Right. Definitely. We're going to Sonoma this week, and road course always brings a little fun, a little change of pace, a little bit more of that anybody can win mentality. Guys that may not be pointed in currently
Yep.
have a shot. You can get, some random, even part-time racer that comes in and wins a race like this right now. What are you expecting to see at Sonoma this week?
I think you're crazy if you think it's not going to be a JGR or HMS car in victory lane. So let's just go ahead and put that out there. Unless a Ford driver does surprise somebody, I feel kind of confident in that each week. But Austin Cindric and Brad Keselowski have thrown 2 wrenches in that the last, few points paying races. So, but I like the Toyotas a lot here. They were very dominant here for a little while with Martin Truex.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, won't be surprised if you do see someone like Tyler Reddick even, or Bubba Wallace. He's getting better at the road racing. I don't know if he's quite grasped it enough to contend for a win, maybe even a Ty Gibbs. I think Ty's going to get to victory lane. It's just a matter of when. And I think a road course gives him the perfect opportunity to surprise somebody. So I think you're going to see that, but you were exactly right. Still got the opportunity for someone like AJ Allmendinger or,
yes.
Michael McDowell, who's, been qualifying good recently.
Yeah.
So
I've got both of those guys in my fantasy lineup. I love putting Dinger in these road courses. He's the one guy, there's other guys that are going to be there that, you can, last year in Chicago, I put SVG in because I was like, everybody's talking about him. Let's put him in. Yeah. And he won. That was rare. That wasn't something that's going to happen normally. But Allmendinger is so experienced and has been around. I love putting him in on road courses. McDowell is another guy I love putting in on road courses. And then, of course, this is not a surprise to anybody, but Chase Elliott, another guy that just fits well here, whether he's having a good season or a bad season, all that kind of stuff. And he's been running pretty well this year as well. So I like Elliott this week. And then I don't think you can ignore Martin Truex. Again, he's another guy who's been running well, not winning, but running well. And he won last year here. There's now a lot of talk about this being his final year, or at the very least his final year there at Joe Gibbs. So there's that all that kind of coming around as well. It just lines up for a day where you're going to have a veteran driver, I think, at the end of the day, crossing the finish line first.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. I like Chris Buescher. He's another guy that's, is kind of quietly a good road course guy, but a veteran. So again, I won't be surprised at all if it's one of your older guys, like you say, Martin Truex, even Denny Hamlin. He's won at Sonoma before. It could happen with the season he's having. But yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see one of the common guys, Hamlin, Larson, Byron. But I also wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see someone that I fully don't expect any other week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I think Larson is this guy. I think you put Larson on any race in your fantasy lineup and feel good about it. Like Larson is this guy. And right now, I think ultra motivated, even with some wins already on the docket. That Indy 500 and Coke 600 outcome was just not at all what he wanted. And I think that for especially next several weeks, I think you're going to see Larson right there every single time. And maybe even if it wasn't for those outcomes, he would be too, but he's just not. If he won the Indy 500, you could see a let up, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And he messed up. It was his fault. He messed up. So that's weighing on him as well. So I think there's extra motivation there for him. I like road courses as a way in my fantasy lineup to save some starts on some guys.
Yeah.
So having Allmendinger, McDowell, even Daniel Suarez, those kinds of people in there. I don't feel that's a risk like I do in other tracks necessarily. But then you got those other guys, even like the Ross Chastains of the world, that could show up. And that's not one of your major teams, your HMS and your JGR, that have been winning everything. But I mean, would you be surprised if Ross Chastain won a race before playoff time?
No, and I mean he's got really good opportunities with Sonoma and Nashville coming up. He won at Nashville last year. And he's another guy kind of like Truex where he's running okay. He's kind of quietly top 10, top 15, worst top 20, but he's there. I think it's just a matter of breaking through. He's got to get up there, qualify good. He's got to put the full weekend together, I think, for Ross. Yeah. It's a big thing for him putting the full qualifying practice and then running good on Sundays.
When we look at the standings and you look at the guys that are towards the cut line or below the cut line that have yet to get a win, that could win, I'm sitting here looking at Busher, who could easily get a win. Briscoe wouldn't surprise me if he pulled out a win. Logano wouldn't surprise me. Kyle Busch, even with the year he's having, no surprise if he gets a win either. Once you get past him, you've got McDowell, who's been close. You've got Gregson, who's been in the top 10 5 times this season. There's not a lot of those guys back there that would be you expect to win. But, man, to me, there's enough guys there that could still get a win that makes those points guys just terrified right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can throw in the could get a win guys as well as the Blaneys and the Bowmans. I think they're right there with those guys. They easily could grab a win. It's just who is going to get the win and who's not. And then Are you going to do it in time to lock yourself in? Because everybody else seems to be going at it. And you've got people like Hamlin and Larson who have already won a couple. Are you going to allow them to stack up playoff points, or are you going to go try to fight a little harder and grab that playoff spot for yourself?
These guys in the top 12, I expect them to get a win before the season's done. Truex, Gibbs, Bowman, Chastain, and Blaney. They're all racers that you would expect to get a win before it's all said and done. That being said, though, again, another win by someone like a Cindric just makes you go, what in the world are we doing here? How are we going to make this work? What happens if a guy like Eric Jones gets a win? And now he had the injury or whatever, so I'm sure he's got a waiver too. But a guy like Harrison Burton, that would blow everybody's mind.
Yeah, no kidding. That'd be Cindric level. I feel like shocking for some.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Logano is a solid choice there. As much as I'm not a big Logano fan, but I can tell you and say that I know he's a good driver. He's gonna be one of the greats when he retires. But he's one of those drivers I think everybody's come to expect to see in victory lane, and he hasn't made it there yet. So I think that's coming. It's just, again, like I said, is he gonna get that win in time, or does he steal a playoff win from a playoff driver when he's not in the playoffs?
Right. Now, he did win, but not in one that mattered.
Yeah, exactly.
In the All-Star race. But we saw some people take that All-Star race very seriously, and he still got the win. There. He does have 4 top 10s this year and 2 top 5s, as well as 1 stage win on the year as well. So, yeah, it is. It's wild. We'll continue to have our ear to the ground to listen to ideas of who's going to start filling some seats. And because there's been names. You mentioned 2 guys earlier in the show that are in the Xfinity race right now. And then you've got, I think, 1 truck guy that his name has come up as well as possibly filling a seat. So, to have guys available, to have a Chase Briscoe as a free agent, he's ranked 15 right now in the points. He's won races. He has been the best Stewart Haas car. And to have him available, that's a big deal. But then you start hearing these, everybody wants the new guy. They want the guy that has all the shininess to them. And so I'm intrigued to see where these things pop up and where the seats land and everything like that as well. So big race this weekend in Sonoma. And Chris, tell everybody again, you got a weekly thing you put out, then you got some collab work that you and Caleb do as well. So tell everybody when that's coming out, where they can find it at.
Yeah, my power rankings, I do a weekly power rankings, top 15 for the Cup Series. Drop it on bellyupsports.com, and then I do it on my personal or my Twitter page, my NASCAR Twitter, which is NASCAR for everyone. And I've got it's on Facebook and Twitter, and I believe that's it right now. But I'm looking towards getting to others. It's just getting the time. But yeah, and then me and Caleb, we do our weekly picks where we kind of just go over some guys that we think are solid, maybe good guys just to put some money on safely if you want. Each week, Caleb's a little wilder than me. So he goes with the larger odds. I tend to stay safe with my picks. And then maybe someone that's not so thought out this week. Maybe the odds are good, but maybe we just don't feel good about them. We drop that typically, on Wednesdays or Thursdays.
You can see your life experience versus Caleb's come through sometimes in these things. Caleb, congrats to Caleb again. Just graduated college a couple weeks back and living that grown up life now. But yeah, you can see the difference in the personalities a little bit too with those picks too. One thing I forgot to mention earlier was Christopher Bell's now won twice. He had a really good car this past week. He was my championship pick back at the beginning of the season, and then for the whole first half of the season was kind of looking like, man, that was a bad pick. How comfortable are you with Christopher Bell now with the way you've seen him over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 races?
I like the definitely the confidence he had this weekend, and then the performance. Man, that's a heartbreaker for mechanical failures, or almost mechanical failures, whatever you want to call it, to take you out of contention for a win. I think he is one of those guys that easily could sneak off another win, maybe grab 3 going into the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if he does it, and then he gets hot in the playoffs, because he has done that before and he's known to do that. I think it's just all going to depend on really the competition. I think, does it stay varied like we've seen, or are we going to see some more repeat winners? And that'll be the big thing.
I will say I've been a Ford guy my whole life, but the more that I listen to Christopher Bell, the more I'm like, man, I like that guy.
Yeah, he's got that. I mean, he almost has that Larson-like character to him. He can set in a car and he can drive it and he can win. I know he doesn't do the dirt racing as much anymore, but still, he's got that ability. He's super competitive too. Something you like, and to give that kind of guy confidence is scary for the competition, I think.
Definitely. Well said. Well said. All right. Well, he's Chris Prince joining us again. Chris, I really do appreciate your time, and on a different day than normal, so I'm glad it worked out. But thanks again, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, for sure. It was a good time. We'll do it again.
All right. We'll see you. Chris Prince again, Belly Up Sports NASCAR head there as well. All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in. We're going to be back. A special episode hosted by Kevin Wilson next Sunday will be the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show. I will not be here on Sunday, but he's going to take care of that and should have a guest on as well. So tune in Sunday night at 8 o'clock for that. No show next week as far as midweek goes. We'll be back at it again the following week. We're going to take a little bit of time off. And so sorry, but not sorry all at the same time. So we appreciate you tuning in tonight. Follow us on social media at Sports Stove. That's on Twitter and on Instagram. And again, make sure you check out righteousfelon.com. Use that promo code STOVE15 at checkout. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. Thanks for tuning into this edition of the Sports Stove Podcast. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.